All Eyes on Fishing with Mitch Peterson, Josh Sheldon, and Brad Qualley, leading you to the next level.
Hey everybody, welcome back to All Eyes on Fishing. Tonight we're going to talk about why we fish. This came into us from a listener that actually emailed us and is like, hey, why do you guys even do what you do? We're like, what?
Well, it means all of it, right? Why do we do what we do? Why do we do the podcast? We've had a lot of questions like that too. Why do you guys do that? Why do you?
How did you get into it? What's going on? Yeah. Why are you giving all that up? And here it is because it doesn't matter what you give up. You still got to be able to go out and do, right? So, you know what I mean?
It's 100%.
Yeah.
Just because we're maybe helping people out with things that we've learned doesn't mean they can set the hook.
Yeah, that's right. So why fish? Why not play basketball?
Well, why did you get into it?
Well, I can't play basketball. I'm only 5'9", so that's
that's self-explanatory.
Yeah.
If you
And plus,
guys saw Brad standing next to Mitch and I, you'd be like, well, and next question.
Yeah, well, you guys don't play basketball either.
But we
it's
could.
At least I'm athletic.
The point is we could, right, Mitch? Give me a little there.
Right. You could stand out there and be one of the tall guys, but you still suck. But anyway,
so why did you get started?
Well, you know what? I remember when I was 5 years old was the first time that I had.
All right, bull.
No, I do.
Call him bull on that.
No, I even remember where I lived. We lived up in Summit County, Colorado, when I got into fishing. So I had really never done it much.
I always knew he was a trout guy.
Oh yeah,
always knew
born and bred.
Yeah. Well, to be honest with you, I don't even remember going fishing at that age, but I remember getting my first rod and reel, not the Zebco, not the little Snoopy poles.
No, they didn't have them back then.
I don't know, but I don't remember having one.
Snoopy was barely alive back then.
I know, it was a minute ago. But no, so I had a regular fishing pole. I mean, to me, it was probably a 5 foot. I don't even know. But it was one of the push buttons like the Zebco 202s or 303s. I don't remember.
Those weren't necessarily quote unquote beginner rods back then. I mean, a lot of guys had Zebcos.
I remember that was that's my first memory of fishing. And I don't remember going out on the water until we moved to North Dakota, probably when I was like 8. And we started, the first time I really got into fishing was fishing northerns from shore up at Dickinson, or Man's Dam up by Dickinson, North Dakota. It was awesome. But anyway, so when I was 5, this is what got me hooked. My dad bought me this pole, or maybe he gave it to me. It was one of his. I don't even know. I can't remember. And I can't ask him because he passed away, so that's not going to help me any. And I should have asked him, damn it. But anyway, I had this pole.
Way to bring us down, dude.
No, it's not to bring it down. I wish I could ask him. But anyway, yeah, maybe he'll come down and tell me. But I have this pole, and he's like, you got to learn how to. I remember him telling me, you got to learn everything about this pole before I take you out fishing. And to me, I was like, what does that mean? It's a pole and a reel. And so what I did is I took the whole thing apart. I took it all apart. It didn't come with any line at the beginning, so I took apart the drag, the springs, and everything, and put it back.
You still do it.
Yeah,
I still do that.
Still in 50 pieces in his garage because he never got that original one back together.
So I ended up putting it back together, and my dad said, take it all apart, clean it, make it yours. So I did. I put it back together. I don't remember if he helped me or not, but I got it back together, and then put line on it. And I thought that was the coolest thing. That was one of the first things when I was young that was mine. You know what I mean?
Right. Yep.
That I got to do on my own.
Absolutely.
And so that pole meant the world to me. You know, it was probably an $8 rod. I don't even know. And it could have been from a garage sale for all I know.
Right.
But I know that got me into it. I mean, right then and there, I was hooked just taking that thing apart and putting it back together. Yep. And then we didn't go fishing a whole lot when we lived up there. But when we moved to North Dakota a year and a half later, I got to test out that baby. Yeah. And we casted from shore. Catching northerns. They seem big to me. I got a picture of me holding one. I'm bear hugging it like a cat, like a cat you're choking out. You know what I mean?
Laker.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Or sturgeon, right?
So I got this. I don't know if it was the first northern, but it was probably like a 24-incher if I had to look at it or think about it now. But I'm bear hugging it, holding it. If I have that picture, I'll show it to you.
Yeah.
So,
well, we can, if you have it, we'll put it as the cover photo. For
this
because
that's what got me into. That's why I fish. I mean, that's what started it.
Yeah. All right, Mitch, your turn.
I'm a lot more now, but
kind of the same deal when I was little, growing up in Minnesota, that's just what we did.
Yeah.
And
Nothing else to do.
My mom actually was the first one to bring my brother and I fishing. But then I just have memories from being little, and all my brothers and friends, they were all playing baseball and whatnot. And Mitch was down at the end of the dock by himself with his crawlers that he dug up and his bobber and his 202.
Yeah. You had a Zepco 202 also?
Catching bullheads one after another. And it didn't matter. I was loving it. And the funny thing is, when you're talking about your 202, I had a flashback. Oh, yeah. The one I'm remembering right now was like hunter green plastic.
Oh, hunter green.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Wasn't the silver chrome
not
fancy?
silver, yeah.
Mine wasn't either. Mine was the
hunter green?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, buddy.
They were
Same
better.
age. Same age.
Who knows?
Kmart?
Palmyra maybe back in the day.
I mean, that's
But
back when you were youthing.
here's my memory that came back. Covered with crawler guts.
Oh,
and
yes.
I tell you, and fish slime.
Mine
and everything
still
just
are.
covered. Yeah. And then I laugh because look at my jigging rod now.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's
Look
a
at the
mess.
cork. It's just disgusting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
So,
I'm with you.
but no, it's for me. It's just something that's part of me.
So your first memory was by yourself at the end of the dock, kind of fishing.
Pretty much, yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's kind of
What about you?
Well, mine was
It's lonely at the dock.
it's lonely at the end of the dock.
It's peaceful.
Yeah.
It's not lonely. I'd rather be there.
I have the fish for my friends.
Yeah, well, so I can remember one instance in particular where my dad initially was not a very good fisherman. He was, bell sinker, hook, salmon eggs, 15 of them on a hook, as many you could get, toss it out kind of fisherman, right?
Perfect.
Yeah, and being from Michigan, that's pretty disappointing. And now that I got older, I was like, geez, you were from Michigan? What the heck, Dad? But I can remember we went down to the very west side of the Pueblo Reservoir, and that lake, when my parents came from Michigan to Colorado, they had just completed the dam. And so it was still the Arkansas River, and it was starting to fill. And within a few years, and that was 2 years before I was born, within a few years it was, fairly
Filling up.
halfway or,
Yeah.
getting up there. And so all of the cottonwoods has started to flood. And so if anybody, think of a big western river, right? It's got huge cottonwoods that line the edges of the river. And when I mean huge, I mean, what do you guys think those are? 50, 60
He's
feet
the
tall?
tree guy. How tall do they get?
50, 60 feet.
You think so? I mean, well, we're in water that's 40 or 50 feet deep, and we're hitting the bottoms, tops of them. So anyways, but just huge cottonwoods. And so those cottonwoods were still cottonwoods. Like now they're all, if the lake drops and they start to appear, they're all mangled and stuff from boats and whatever. But those were still full trees. And so I can remember fishing underneath them because they were so big it kind of blocked out the sun. And we were casting out with our bobbers and catching sunnies. And who knows what else it was, but just casting out with those bobbers and in those trees, guys. Just remember the sun coming through those trees and hooking fish and bringing them in, and then getting them off and throwing them back as fast as I could and casting again. And so that was my first. And we always stop by. So I grew up out in the boonies, right? And there weren't any stores. There wasn't even a gas station out there. But there was a liquor store. Always got to be a liquor store, right?
That's the first thing.
That's the first thing that goes in. There was a liquor store. So we stopped by the liquor store, and that's when I got.
Did they have
hooked
bait
on-
there and stuff?
No
or?
bait, just but
Booze.
you could get pop.
Oh.
And so we stopped by the liquor store. My dad wasn't a drinker, so he didn't buy booze or anything, but I got a can of Mountain Dew, and that's how I got hooked on Mountain Dew. I'd get a can of Mountain Dew, and we'd take it down there and we'd fish.
That was your day.
That was my day. I mean, that was it, right? That was the awesome time, and so that's what I remember most.
I can see him all wound up.
Yeah,
on
he's
Mountain
getting
Dew.
all
Oh yeah,
excited.
I mean,
Spider monkey.
I don't even
Like
know
a
if I
spider
drank
monkey.
It. Yeah,
Yeah.
like I don't even know if I drank it. To be honest, I can't even remember really drinking it. Maybe a few sips on the way down, but once I got down to fishing, I was like you guys. I was all business.
He's all blacked out on Mountain Dew.
Oh yeah, man, let's go. I mean, I was, get down, and nothing was ever easily accessible. So you would always they'd always stop you, and you'd have to walk down. And I can remember walking what seemed like forever to get to the water's edge, and then just being focused, catching fish until we had to go, and then going home.
Yeah, it was good times.
Yeah.
When you were talking about the fish guts on your 202, oh no, mine was pristine because my dad made me clean it. It was pristine. It had a few scratches on it. That's what makes me think it was a used one from a garage sale.
My 202 was a tool.
Yeah,
It's just a tool.
It was a machine, a mechanism for my.
Yes.
So I remember too. Also, now this is when we got to North Dakota. So I was that 6-7 year age. I don't remember. But I used to do chores to be able to get like a quarter or
Sure.
10 nickel or whatever. I don't even remember.
Back then, a quarter was like wealthy.
Yes. Well, yeah. And me and a buddy, and I don't even remember his name because we were little, just about, probably a block or two from our house was, it was like an Ace Hardware. And they had fishing stuff there.
Yeah.
So we would go in there and spend all of our money, the whole quarter or whatever I made that week. And I bought little jigs and bobbers. So I bought my whole tackle box myself.
The red and white bobbers, I remember those, they clip on and off they go. And so,
yeah.
So if as you got older, at what point did fishing go from being something where you liked doing or hanging out to where it was, you started to get serious, right? Like you started getting the Bass Pro catalog in the mail, or you started Gander Mountain with the first
I know
one
exactly when it was for me.
Me too.
I was 12 or 13 when we moved to Nebraska. That's when it got big.
That's when it got serious.
Yeah, that's when it got serious because so for the day, like on the weekends, my mom and dad, one of us would drive us out to this place called Two Rivers State Park, and it had like 6 or 7 lakes on it, but they were just more like ponds. They weren't huge lakes. And they would take us there at the crack of morning when it opened up. Matter of fact, we would go to the front and they would drop us off, and the state park opened up like at 6 or 7 in the morning, and their bait store opened up. So we always went with a can of corn because just in case you could use corn for anything.
Dude,
corn was awesome.
Spray corn with a little WD-40 and you got the world's
So you get hungry, you could eat some.
Yeah, I know. Seriously. So we would wait there, and they would open up, and we'd go in and get worms and maybe a soda, and then off we walked. My parents were gone by then. They just go, see you later. They had a payphone, one of the payphones, and we'd call them when we were done, or it was at dark.
Yeah.
So, we were there for like 12 hours
Oh,
a day.
yeah. And it was nothing either. It was, those 12 hours went by in a snap.
It was every weekend. And then during the summer, it was 3-4 times a week.
Well, I don't think sunscreen was really invented until like 1990.
I was going to say, yeah.
No,
sunscreen was a
sunscreen.
joke. I used to put zinc oxide on my nose because my poor nose would get nailed. But yeah, it was like sunscreen.
But that's when I would go out. I always had to. So I had 3 or 4 buddies that I fished with all the time, and it was always me and one of them because they all didn't want to go every time. They would go like every 3rd trip. So, they wouldn't let me go by myself. So I always had to be, come on, let's go, come on. Yeah. Finally, I'd get someone talked into it, and then when we got there, it was tournament time.
Yeah,
it was like, I'm going to catch more than this guy. Oh, yeah. So it didn't matter what it was. We're going. Most of the time, we went for bullheads or we went for some sort of panfish, either crappie or bluegill, because that's what we did, right? And I am telling you, it was who can catch the most in a day. So when you would come out and for the day you would have like 38 bluegill or whatever, you're like, boom!
Yeah.
I just won. Let's do it again tomorrow.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, what time we go tomorrow? Yeah.
So that was the first time, where I really got into competitive fishing. It wasn't for, I didn't fish my first tournament until I was 15. But for those 12 to 13 years of age, it was every day. Not every day, but a lot of days out on the water. And then the same thing when the ice came. They would take us out there and we'd walk out. We always went they would only let us fish one lake for the ice fishing. They didn't open up all the lakes. Yeah. So we'd always, and it was right behind the tackle store. So that was nice. So we'd walk and drill our holes and fish all day, and they'd come pick us up at dark.
Frozen.
Yeah, no kidding.
Frozen.
Now, see,
it was a lot harder to get people to go with me then. They're like, come on, guys.
See, I can remember I was probably a little younger. I was probably more around that 8, 9, 10 range because, and I'll never forget, we used to fish for crappie in the springtime. And crappie fishing, big, black crappies, right? And I'll never forget that we went down one time and we would fish with minnows, and very simple. My dad didn't really have it all figured out yet, and
but you don't need to. That's the cool thing about fishing.
Like back then,
when you're doing it, though, when you're that age, or you're just even if I wasn't to where I like fishing now, to where I competitively fish,
right?
It's still a ball to go out there, even if you only have $30 worth of gear and go sit on the shore with a bobber and get at it.
Still fishing.
It's still fishing.
Well, but it was all a progression, right? Like you have to understand, this was probably mid '80s, maybe maybe a little bit earlier than that. So I was.
We were almost in college then.
Yeah. You guys were like
youngster.
You guys were like 30. Yeah. You both had kids. But it was kind of crazy because we would go down, and of course there'd be that one guy that'd be hammering them. right? I mean, we'd sit there and we'd get our few on minnows, and we'd cast it towards a bush and a tree out in the water, and the crappies would hit it. But there was that one guy who was just one after another.
You're like, what's
and
he
so,
doing?
finally Dad slides over, and he's like, so what do you got going on there? And he had
Tube jig.
Yes. It was a little tiny tube jig. I'll never forget. It was blue with white, like pearl white tails, like the skirt, and no minnow. We were like, what? No bait? No bait? What are you nuts? And so that's when he said, well, where do you find these? Because again, we didn't have anything. Pueblo had a Kmart. That was my bait store. And
that was 10 miles away.
And that was, exactly. It was probably 10 or 12 miles away. So he's like, you get out of this catalog called Bass Pro. Fishing catalog, all fishing stuff. Oh, my God, are you kidding me? I mean, I thought the guy was like...
There's a catalog just for fishing stuff?
I thought he was from the church. I was like, oh, my... Like, really? Like, you were the best guy ever, right? And so we ended up figuring out what Bass Pro was. So fast forward like a year, next spring, and
you're ordering as many tube jigs.
Well, we're trying to figure out, like, we didn't have any cash to go with having no stores, right? So we were, but there was a grub, and I've shown you two, and actually I think I've given you some because I don't think you can buy them anymore. But Man's made a grub called a stingray grub, and it was not a paddle. I mean, it looked like a beaver tail. So it was almost like a diamond shaped, but instead of sharp edges, it was rounded edges. And it was a grub, and it was avocado color. And that must have looked like the best, the only thing I can think of is like a crawdad imitator. But that...
Tadpole.
Well, dude, it was amazing. Just one tail. I mean, no action, no twister tail. That's when twister tails became big and all that stuff started coming out. And no, you didn't tip it. You didn't anything. You casted it out. We were on shore. You cast it out, and you just jigged it back. And you just gave it a sharp rip and let it sit, sharp rip. And the smallmouth and walleyes wouldn't leave it alone. And I can remember when I really got crazy into fishing as we walked down to the lake one day, and we were fishing in the Marina Bay. And we walked down. There's this old guy and his wife, and I don't know how old, probably in their 40s or something, but looked old to me. And they're on their lawn
They were
chairs.
probably 29.
It might have been you two. So, anyways, they're casting out. They're in their lawn chairs, and they're sitting there. And we've got a couple today, and they've been down there the whole day. And this is evening, right, like 3-4 o'clock. We came down. My little brother, who's 3 years younger than me, so he must have been like 6 or 7. And we just put on a clinic. Every cast, dude. Big, fat meter, smallies that were 15, 16 inches.
And these guys are like,
walleye
what in the world? These kids are
after walleye.
schooling
And it
us.
was everyone to the point where they just packed up and got out. My dad was laughing. He goes, well, you made them leave, because we were fishing, not buying, but down the shore from them. And they got up and split there. They couldn't believe it. That's when I was like, yeah, this is pretty good times. Like, this can be fun.
This is why you fish. How about you, Mitch?
Well, I fished a bunch all growing up, riding my bike down to the pump house with Roy, just constantly, right?
Yep.
And then I left for the Navy. And, I missed my fishing for 4 years, but then I got out.
Yeah.
And sure enough, these dudes that I ran with in the cities, we had a boat, we had some spots, and I caught my first walleye kind of pseudo Lindy rigging. It was a 6-pounder, and let me tell you,
wow,
this thing
That's
was
your first eye?
That's a good way to get
no.
caught.
Was it
My
6-pounder?
I misspoke. My first big eye.
Big eye.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
And where we were fishing.
That's a good
for
one. Yeah, next let's cover first big eye because that's a great point. Because that's a good story.
So when I remember that night we left, I'm just all jonesing because we had the spot. You had to be there. Oh yeah, and I bet if we went there first week of June, I'd take you right to the spot,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So to me, it was a spot and how we were doing it.
Yep.
And my buddy figured it out, and we got to jump on. Well, on our drive home, one of the guys was going off on how fishing is luck. It's all luck. And I'm like, no, it's not all luck because, look at all these different skills and stuff and the location and knowing what we were, blah, blah, blah down the list. And we got in this big argument about it. And I think at that point it pissed me off so much that he's like, it's all luck, you got lucky tonight and got that 6-pounder. I'm like,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
So like Doug Stange says, what's the definition of luck? When preparedness meets opportunity.
Right,
Well,
exactly.
I love that. It's stolen from Doug Stange.
Stange
But
Chronicles.
it's the truth. It got me really thinking.
Yeah.
How much of it is just random luck, which
Sure.
I do think there is a portion of the equation that kind of comes in,
Well,
if you
there
want
has
to call
to
it
be,
luck.
absolutely, yeah.
But you can do so many things to stack your
Sure.
luck,
You prepare yourself.
and you're successful.
Yep.
And I think that's kind of what's driven me the whole time to be better and try to learn more, to get rid of the luck and to make it more, I control what we're doing.
Yep. First biggest fish. First big eye. How old and on what?
Well, I remember this is the first one I remember. Now, we caught a lot when I was young at Mansdam. We were catching a walleye and northern. So I can't differentiate at that age.
Yeah.
I just remember they're nice sized fish to me.
Yep.
But the first one, when you said that, I knew this question was coming, I started thinking.
Yeah.
So when back in 92, we moved up to northeast Nebraska in a town called Wayne. Excuse me. And it was probably about an hour or so from Gavins Point Dam. It's the Nebraska, South Dakota border. It's Gavins Point, Lake Yankton, whatever you want to call it. So there is a ton of walleye in that lake. Well, there's a lot of sauger in that lake. And when my buddy had a boat, and we would drift this one spot all the time, and we would catch 14 to 17-inch sauger all day long. It was fun, right?
Just dragging jigs? Or
yep,
what?
that's all we were doing is just dragging jigs over these sharp rocks, and it was every time we went up there, they were always there, and we were the only boat there ever. Never seen another boat there, so it was awesome.
Yeah.
And I remember it was probably like, I don't know, 8, 9, 10 trips up there, and we've caught a lot of fish. Every day it's like a 40 fish day that we went up there. We got lucky. We never really had a bad day. And it was a little bit slower this day. And I was like, golly, we've only caught like 10. We've been out here like 2 hours. And it was pretty rocky, like I said. So you'd lose jigs and get snagged up. Well, I had one where it was, I don't know if it was dragging. I don't remember how the bite went. But I hooked it, and it was like, gosh, dang it. You're trying to rip it out of the rocks.
Right.
And I rip it, and it rips back. And I was like, holy moly, that's a big fish. So,
That's not a rock.
no. So I finally got it up. I reeled it up, and because once I learned it wasn't a rock, I stopped just cranking on it, and got up to the side of the boat. We didn't even have a net because all those little ones you're just ripping up over the shore, over the side.
I never had a net. Never until I bought my first boat.
So I get this thing up next to the side of the boat, and I'm like, I don't think I'll be able to pick this one up. So I got my rod way up high with my left hand. I'm reaching down the water, and I'm like, I can't lip it, but I want to get this thing in. So I just stick it to the side of the boat and drag it up.
Drag it up and over.
Yeah.
Flip it in like
it wasn't great big. I mean, I've caught several bigger ones than that since.
Yeah.
But looking back, it was probably like a 26-inch
Nice.
walleye.
Yeah, still a
so
great
it was
fish.
like,
Yep.
7-pounder. It was like, boom, there you go. So
Yep.
that was my first one that I really remember.
Yep. Mine was spring, but it was a little bit later in the spring. They were done with the spawn. It was Pueblo Reservoir. I still have the picture, actually. I'll have to show you guys. I was probably 7 or 8, and I was using, I had graduated to a spinning rod that year. I was using a black and gold original Rapala. Black and gold, size 13, original Rapala, and casting with a little split shot up above it. And it was right at dark, full moon. I remember looking up at the full moon when this fish hit, and he just destroyed it. We'd caught a couple more because the only reason I know that they're in the picture, but they were much smaller. He just blew it up. Just came up
How
from
big
underneath
was it?
it right next to shore. Hey. Easy.
He's
I had to listen to
getting
you
there.
talk about
It's
yank
like
and
I'm thinking to myself, you post that picture, you're lying.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, I just will never forget it hitting, and it just sounded like like an alligator hitting something at the shore and rolling, right? And so I'm yelling, Dad, because I was fishing away from him, and I just remember the line going, taking off, and so anyways, got it in, no net, drag it up on the shore. So about 4.5 pounds, about the same size you're talking about. But I just remember it being so gold and those huge eyes in the light, and that was back in the day where you caught something like that, you took that bad boy home.
Oh yeah.
And so
Especially when you're a kid, everything. Hey, can we keep it?
Yep. And so
My 6-pounder went home too.
So we roll home, and on the way home we stopped because we didn't have a camera. So we stopped at my aunt and uncle's house, who lived about a half mile behind us. And my aunt, I'll never forget, my aunt came down to the door in a robe because it was night, and oh wow, look at this, So she took a picture of my little brother and I and my dad holding that 4-pound fish, and I still have it. I have to find it, but I still have it.
That'd be a good one.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
What about you? Have you ever caught a big fish? I don't remember.
Yeah, I have. So that 6-pounder I consider my first big fish.
Okay.
My really big fish came in 2004, I think, trolling the night before Thanksgiving.
Oh, that's the one.
That's the one, yeah.
13-pounder.
That's
And I'm just, we don't even have to get into the story.
That-
13-pounder, boys.
Yeah. You win.
13, and that's good.
So you know what? Here's what's going to happen. And we're going to wrap this up here. But what I want you guys to do that are listening to this is email us your stories. I mean, we get a lot of emails, right? But we want to hear your stories.
Well, and your pictures. We'll put them in. We'll put them in our Big Bite page. We have a rash. That's kind of how Big Bite works, right? Like we'll do a podcast like this, and we'll get 10 or 11 people that send us pictures. We'll put them in, and then we don't hear from anybody for 4 months. Yep. Send us your Big Bite pictures. We'll put them in.
We don't really pimp it up too much until we have a topic that ends up talking about Big Bite.
It's just we want to share it with everybody.
Yeah,
it's cool.
So do a little write up on your email. Or when you send us an email to alleyesonfishing@gmail.com, and also include a picture because we'll put it up on the Big Bite.
Sure.
And it could be your little kid that caught his first 1 pounder. If it's a big fish to him, we want to put it up there because it's cool.
Yeah.
You know, but
well, and that brings up a good point. I want to thank everybody that sent in emails when we did the catch and release episode because, and I know we haven't had a chance to respond to them all, but some of you guys went into great in-depth info, especially you Erie guys. You guys gave us, I mean, I feel like I could walk out to Erie any day of the week now and fish and know where to go based on the information. You guys had just amazing information about the kind of the progression, how Erie became so good and talking to DNR guys and all that. It was fabulous information. And some of it was just so much that, I mean, it just, I haven't even had a chance personally to be able to answer it because it was so much info, but we appreciate it. We really do.
Well, from all of us, we're going to wrap it up. We'd like to thank you and make sure you follow us on Facebook and Instagram and making sure you're letting your buddies know. And go to our website, alleyesonfishing.com, where we have a lot of good apparel and things like that. If you're interested in that, we'll get it out to you. It's all handmade. We don't make it, but we don't.
I sew all day long.
Mitch is sewing, Brad's in the back, weaving the cotton.
We each order we have to process separately because we don't have a huge inventory.
And go out, show your support. That's how we help keep these things commercial free. Is we use anything that we can get from selling hats, T-shirts, hoodies, things like that. And we've sold a bunch. We have some great guys. We get pictures all the time. Guys wearing them on the beach or out fishing or whatever. And
another thing that's helped us too is the next level.
The next level's huge. We love doing the next level.
That's for those that are just finding us. The next level is podcasts that are over an hour long. We go into great depth on. It's mostly techniques and things that we've done in the past to make us successful. You can find that at Podbean. Or on our website, right?
No, Podbean. Go to alleyesonfishing.podbean.com and click on any of the episodes labeled Next Level, and it will prompt you to subscribe. For the cost of 12 night crawlers a month, you can get
maybe leeches.
Leeches or combo.
Combo does.
Ooh, I like combos.
It's not that expensive.
You can get a Next Level subscription, and we release at least 2 episodes a month, if not 3, depending on if it's a long month or if we can get the third one out, we will. But that's where we will be doing most of our interviews and things like that.
So we appreciate it, guys. Thanks a lot.
This has been All Eyes on Fishing. Thanks for listening. And if you like what you heard, go ahead and subscribe to The Next Level. And you can hear longer podcasts and more information on all of your favorite topics. And check us out at alleyesonfishing.com for apparel, blogs, and other information. Don't forget to check us out on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. All Eyes on Fishing, leading you to the next level.